In local matters now, President Trump is praising Republicans for their win in Arizona's 8th Congressional District race. In a tweet, he wrote congratulations to Republican Debbie Lesko on her big win in the special election for Arizona House seat. Debbie will do a great job. Press is so silent. Well, the former state senator edged out her Democratic opponent by about 5 points Tuesday. Back in 2016, the deep red district backed President Trump by 21 points. Lesko will now fill a House seat left open by Republican Trent Franks. He resigned last year after reportedly asking a staffer to carry his child and offering that staffer $5 million. To help us break down the race, we want to bring in Campbell in Phoenix. She is a reporter for Arizona Capital Times. Katie, thanks for joining us. So Arizona's Republican Senator Jeff Flake addressed this race saying, quote, anything below a 10-point margin is not good news, unlike the president calling it a big win. What's been the reaction in Arizona to the results of this race?
Honestly, there's some surprise, not necessarily because Debbie Lesko won, but because she won by such a small margin. In CD8, Republicans nearly outnumbered Democrats 2-1. So we were really expecting a larger margin between the two of them, especially because Debbie Lesko really ran away with the primary race, despite that being a little bit ugly and obviously very brief because this is a special election. But she's well known in the district, so we would have expected a little bit more.
So still, in light of, races that we've seen in Pennsylvania and Alabama, this is a win. A win is a win. So why do you suppose she was able to actually win, even though the margin was, rather slim?
Like I said, she's a known entity in CD8. She's been working in this district for decades. She really represents a lot of the viewpoints that many of the voters there would have. And she really looked to President Trump's agenda, took a hardline stance on border security, really talked up the idea of a border wall. So she had talking points that would traditionally appeal to CD8 voters. And she's got history here. It's probably safe to say that she's better known than Dr. Hirol Tipineni.
When we watch the race in Pennsylvania, the Democratic candidate won there primarily because he focused on local issues. Was this a local race or a national race?
That's a good question. I think from Debbie Lesko's perspective, it was a little bit of both. Like I said, she had a lot of focus on border security because Arizona is a border state, and it's been ground zero in a lot of ways for some of the debates around immigration. So in that regard, she really took the national conversation and made it more of a local one. But she also talked about matters that are very important to CD8 voters. There's a large elderly population there with several large retirement communities. So she talked about things like healthcare, as did her opponent. So there was a little bit of a balancing of what's important to a national audience and what's important to those right here in CD8.
So part of the reason that, Jeff Flake said anything below a 10-point margin isn't good news is because Donald Trump took this district by 21 points during the national election. How much of this race was about the president?
Again, Debbie Lesko really tried to draw a lot of parallels between herself and the president, pointing out that much of her agenda fell in line with his. And I would think that that's what, not to exaggerate, but saved her in this race, was pointing to the president as often as she did, because that was going to appeal with the traditional CD8 voters. The fact that we're looking at such a small margin, though, now leaves a local reporter like myself with a question of how did the president negatively impact this, or what exactly led to this very unique drop in the margins that we've seen in these kinds of races. What I thought was interesting was about a third of the districts turned to Tipineni from supporting the president, but no districts that leaned towards Clinton went to Lesko. So that's some really interesting data coming out this morning.
Yeah, that is interesting. So how you perceive this race clearly depends on your perspective. Is there anything that national Republicans can learn from the outcome of this race looking ahead to the midterms? It's hard to say whether this is a win or a loss. I mean, it is a win, but it's a qualified win.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things they need to realize is they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of Lesko was probably a very good call. It looks like she might have needed that support and that ground game to be amplified a little bit. But I think the biggest thing they're going to be looking at today is gearing up and making sure they're ready for the regularly scheduled election in August and November. Tipper Nenny has already said that she's going to be running again in November. And if she can maintain this kind of momentum, that could be a real challenge for the Republican Party. So I think they have a lot of self-reflection to do to figure out what exactly went wrong here. Again, this is still a win, but this is not exactly the comfortable win I'm sure they were looking for.
Yeah, self-reflection and probably a whole lot of fundraising on both sides. Katie,
Oh, yeah.
Katie Campbell, reporter for Arizona Capitol Times. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.